because they were afraid that it would make their kids gay. And now all the kids are gay.
It's true. I guess they were right.
Who would have thunk it?
Who'd have thunk it? Hold on, can I turn up the volume at all?
Sorry. I'm ready.
Okay, hold on. There we go. So just like could you please, how long will you be, is there a way you could sit down for like 10 minutes in front of the phone?
I can't sit down, but I can put the camera in front of my face.
Okay. Great. So.
I might occasionally look away. Is that okay?
That's.
Or I'll stay like.
Okay. Alright. Now I gotta frame this. I don't want you too far away because I want the camera to pick
you
up.
That's good, I think. You like my hat, by the way?
I do. B is for Bucky. No, B is for Boston for Grandpa. Grandpa Steve.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll just like lay in camera. It's fine. No, actually, it's probably going to be different when I'm recording. Oh no, it's recording now. It's been recording this whole time. Okay, great. We'll cut this out.
Wonderful.
Okay. Okay. Here we go. Hello, I'm Nicole Swedberg, and this is my interview. Hi, this is Vincent Champeau. How are you doing?
I'm doing quite well. Thank you for asking.
Do you mind telling our audience just a little bit about yourself?
God, where do I begin? I am an aspiring director, a accomplished thespian, a student of film and academia. I was raised in California, and I have 3 very fat cats.
All right. And how old are you?
What was that? I'm sorry.
How old are you?
Sorry, could you speak up?
I said, how old are you? So you're Gen Z, correct?
Yes, sorry, I'm Gen Z. I am 21 years young.
All right. And would you say that your social circle consists of people between the ages of 15 and 21?
Yeah, I'd say like more along the lines of 21 to pretty much across the board 21. But yeah.
Okay. Now, do you have social media?
What about social media? I'm sorry.
Do you have social media?
Yes, I do.
And how do you think Gen Z feels about social media just in general? And are there any ways in which you feel that Gen Z has like a unique perspective on social media?
I definitely think we're the most pro social media generation. Not only because most of us came of age like right at the cusp of not only the internet but social media specifically becoming a cultural force in our society, a cultural and social force, but also it was, every generation has its big piece of technology, and the internet was ours. And so it was how we communicated, it was how we expressed ourselves. And one of the many ways that we did that, one of the primary ways was through social media. So I'd say not only does my generation feel positively about it, but that we have a pretty big connection to it.
Okay.
For better or for worse.
And so, are you trying to grow your following on social media?
How did I grow it?
No, are you trying to grow it?
Not really. I post, so I have a plethora of social media for different reasons. Most of it is just to contact people and to post updates about my life. The one bit of social media that I have that has a following that is for like entertainment, in that sort of vein, I don't really care about following. I just want to post things that I find entertaining and that I enjoy making.
Do you think, okay, let me put it this way. There's this perception, at least amongst like people my age, and it's something that I've heard like millennials and Gen X say, which is that Gen Z wants to be famous. Like that's what they want. And that idea is, connected to the idea of people being able to get famous on the internet by being an influencer. So basically like getting famous for being famous. So like they're not necessarily saying like I want to be a movie star or I want to be a rock star. They just want to be like famous for the sake of being famous. Do you think that's true? What do you think about that?
Yes and no. I think that much like how in the 60s, after we landed on the moon, you had an influx of children who wanted to be astronauts. Now you have a bunch of people who grew up watching, quote unquote normal people become super famous because of their webcam. Now you have an influx of people who want to do that. I wouldn't say that influencers are any more or less desirable than any other profession in any other generation. I think it's just that it is a profession and an occupation that is uniquely tailored to my generation, but that does not. I wouldn't say that it is overwhelming in like its grip hold on what my generation wants to do with our lives. I think it's just another option for us.
Do you think Gen Z wants to be famous?
I think everybody wants to be famous.
Do you want to be famous?
I think that well, what do you mean by famous? Because, all being famous really is in the American individualist context is being seen, being noticed, and in that respect, there isn't a human being on this planet who doesn't want to be noticed or seen. I think that I personally like the spotlight at times. I wouldn't say that I actively crave the prospect of being famous, no, but there is a part of me that finds it exciting, that finds it titillating, that would think it would be nice.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't say that I actively strive for it, no.
What about, like, other people in your generation that you know? Or that you hear?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But, like, again, like, I think that it's a different way of being famous as opposed to, like, like, being good at one thing, or being really, really good at one thing, like, I don't know, running a kitchen or a pawn shop and then getting your own reality TV show.
Mm-hmm.
I think that now social media has opened up an avenue to where, like, normal people, everyday people can become famous, but, like, beyond that, I don't think it happens to everybody to begin with, even if you do put in the time and the effort, even if, like, you're famous or not famous. And I certainly don't think that I I don't think that.
Anyway. So let me ask you another question. Do you think that Gen Z, how do I put this? Because in the play, there's a character who is a very serious musician who has a modest social media presence and following, simply for their music, simply as an outlet for their music. And they feel that this is something they have to do in order to be taken seriously as an artist. Do you think that Gen Z feels like they have to cultivate a online presence in order to be taken seriously at doing certain things? You know, like for like to be recognized for their accomplishments or like in their skills. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I would say no. I think that, I think ultimately, like, the reason my generation is so obsessed with social media is it has very little to do with what we desire and more to do with what we're being given in the moment.
Mhm.
I think that it gives us instant gratification, and I think it gives us like a hit of dopamine whenever we like get a new like or whatever. I think it has very little to do with like wanting to become famous or wanting to like have a following on social media.
Yeah.
I think it's more of an addiction than anything. And to answer your question, no, I don't think that my generation feels the need to do it as a means to an end. I think that we do it because we want to do it.
Yeah.
Because it's like what's in front of us.
So let me ask you something. Would you date? How would you feel about dating a person who had 300,000 followers?
How would I feel in the sense that like what would my like reaction be?
Yeah, like would that make them perhaps more or less attractive to you, or like would that concern you? Would you like view that as a perk? Would it like not even matter? Would you feel like maybe like you were in some sort of competition with them? Oh no. There you
Sorry
are.
about that. Sorry about that. To answer your question, no, I don't think that it would. I don't think it would be a perk or a con. I think that it would certainly raise some eyebrows because I think that social media personalities tend to be very solipsistic.
Mm-hmm.
But like that's with any famous person, and I think it takes a certain kind of personality to like want to like actively pursue that. So that would certainly be a red flag, maybe.
Like, wait, what do you mean?
guess.
What do you mean a certain kind of person?
Like, I think it would. I think for you to actively want to be famous on social media and to actively specifically to actively commit yourself to like getting that big of a following, maintaining it, because it is a thing that needs to be maintained and that needs to be strived for. You don't just usually end up with 300,000 followers. That's very rare. So usually, if a person has that kind of following, it's because they worked for it. And in that respect, I think the kind of person who works for a following like that on social media tend to be very solipsistic, very self-focused, very hedonistic sometimes. And so I would definitely be wary of like the person, but like if I got to know them and it turned out that like they were a cool person, this is what they did, I would not, it would not matter to me one bit.
Okay, so it's a red flag, but not a deal breaker.
No, no.
Do you think that like most other Gen Zers would agree? Like if a person has 300,000 subscribers, like that could mean that they're like a self-centered person?
Oh, no. Not at all. I think that if anything, for a lot of other Gen Zers, that would be a pro.
How so?
Because, going back to my earlier statements, I never wanted to give the impression that I thought that social media wasn't a big deal to people my age. It certainly is. I just don't think it's because people my age actively want to strive for it. I think it's because it's what we grew up around, it's what we're used to seeing in terms of success or becoming famous. And so we strive for it because that's what's right in front of us. Even I'm guilty of doing this. I have a account where I post imitations of political figures. Um, you know, I do it on social media. However, what I will say is that I think that most people don't put that much, especially my age, don't put that much thought into it.
Into what?
Into like your question, like would it be a problem or whatever? Would it like would there be pros and cons? So I think that if anything, for most people my age, it would be, oh hell yeah, this is sweet. Like it would be a plus.
Okay. So like being a social media influencer as is seen as like socially desirable.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
Why do you think that is?
That's a loaded question. Uh, I think that there are people in this world. Sorry, I think there are people in this world who own social media companies who have a vested interest in uh, in no uncertain terms in propagating an ideal, a certain way of life. I think that's why a lot of social media influencers live in big houses. They are attractive. They're usually white, heterosexual. You know, I think it's because, not that like, people of color or queer people don't become famous on social media. Rather, what I'm saying is that like here in America, we have this notion of what success is.
Mm-hmm.
That's deeply rooted in many problematic things. And I think that people who are in the industry, the tech industry, the social media industry, like the CEOs and stuff, have a vested interest in ensuring that like the collective way of thinking that got them to be where they are in their careers as CEOs is perpetuated through the existence of like the fake, exaggerated, luxurious, ostentatious lives that these influencers project onto their social media accounts. And more specifically, I think that to get to the point, I think that the success of social media in the form of influencers and content creators and everything else is just an extension of the American celebrity, whether it be in Hollywood or whatever, which is an extension of our out of control sensationalized media, which is an extension of our fundamental not principles, but like what Americans are told they aspire to: have lots of money, drive a fast car, like have an attractive wife if you're a man, be white, be straight, live in a big house, all these other things. I think that social media being this aspiration for my generation is just the newest version of getting us to chase the American dream. Because
advertising,
oftentimes these social media influencers have a lot of money, and in our culture, money equals success. And I think that's really what it comes down to.
do you think, like, so is this like a common or a prevalent attitude amongst Gen Z, would you say? Would you say Gen Z is like aware of the commercial influences on social media, that like these people get rich by trying to sell us things?
Not even a little bit. I think that if I mentioned any of this to any of my peers, they would look at me like I had 4 ears on my head, or they would just tell me to stop talking.
Why do
I
you
think that I think that Americans are brainwashed, and I think that my generation is no different. I think that we're told what to believe by our environment, and a big part of our environment is our media output. And for young people, that's social media. We're told what to believe, what to want, what's desirable, what's not desirable, how we should act, talk, think. And when you have a highly addictive social media algorithm that's carefully designed and to be curated to your specific tastes, that's the easiest pipeline to like making a population submissive to the powers that be that I've ever seen. And I think that it's really, really hard to acknowledge that when you're so obsessed with attaining the thing. I think that Gen Zers are about as clueless to these systems as like a movie star in the 20th century would have been.
What do you think? What would, yeah, no, you did a good job. What would, so given having said that, like, what would you like to see happen with your generation and their relationship with social media?
I'd like to see them give it up.
Really?
I use it because everybody else uses it, and I know that how that sounds given everything that I've just said. But I don't use social media to do the things that social media is designed for. I have a TikTok account where I post my imitation of the president. Beyond that, all of my other social media accounts I use to like text my friends basically, because they all refuse to text via the built-in messaging system in our phones. They all insist on messaging through the Instagram app or the Facebook app or whatever it is, for some unknown reason. And I think that social media has been a net negative on our society. I think that it's addictive, it's toxic, it's dangerous. I think that a lot of attention is paid to like how, like, for example, in young teenage girls, it gets them to want to self-harm, and it causes eating disorders because like they see all these attractive women on their feed and they think, oh, I want to be like that. I think it radicalizes young men, as we've seen with like the incel movement. And I think that in general, politically, social media has been one of the biggest catalysts for the spread of misinformation, which literally affects the outcome of our elections. So honestly, if social media got like completely wiped off of the face of the earth today or tomorrow, I think that would be a net win. So I'm not talking about the internet or like social online fake news. And I don't even really count places like YouTube or like Reddit. I'm talking about like Instagram, Twitter,
right?
Facebook, like those kinds of things. Like I'm iffy about TikTok, but like I'm all for content creation on social media or on the internet. Social media, in my mind, is not meant for content creation. It just happens to have content creation on it.
So what you say?
YouTube and TikTok are meant for content creation. Twitter was meant to like post like threads of words. Facebook was meant to post life updates. Instagram was meant to post pictures of yourself. These things are fundamentally designed for different things as opposed to like creating content. And I think that things like Instagram and Facebook like need to be shut down for the betterment of our society.
So what you're saying to me is very interesting, because at the beginning you said that your generation just uses social media because it's what they know, it's the tools that they have. And yet you're also telling me that you believe that social media is a net negative on society and your generation. And yet at the same time, you're also like kind of bookending it with, your friends all communicate through their social media apps because it's easier to keep consistency with a social media profile than it is with a phone or other means of other accounts that you have to maintain in order to like have communication. So like it's and this is something that happens with new technologies a lot. It's like this is dangerous and we need it.
Yeah. And that's what's kind of messed up about it, is that like it's gotten to a point now, like had you asked me maybe 4 years ago, should we ban social media, I would have said yes, absolutely. And I still maintain that like the pros of an all-out social media ban outweigh the cons, but there are cons now because now a lot of people get their news from social media. More specifically, there's a lot of activists and progressive people who their only way to spread news is through social media because the mainstream media, news media, doesn't report on certain things, like we saw with Gaza, for example. But there was a lot of spinning a narrative with institutions like CNN and MSNBC when it came to issues like Gaza or the George Floyd protests. But like a lot of people got like unfiltered, unbiased updates about those situations from social media. So now we live in a world where it's not even a necessary evil. There's just like realities that we can't ignore about it because like it's become something else entirely.
It's just a part of the world now.
Yeah.
All right, I'm running out of time, but I do want to ask one more question. Okay, so what would you say millennials and above misunderstand about Gen Z's relationship with social media and the internet?
That while it is an addiction, it's not our choice.
That's really good. Okay. Thank you, Vincent. This has been very elucidating.
Hopefully my answers were somewhat cumbersome.
Just the right amount.